A special thank you to each of our subscribers who make this channel possible. Here's today's story. In a bold statement that threatens to further inflame the already tense trade relations between the United States and China, former President Donald Trump has accused China of totally violating its trade agreement with the U.S. This claim was made in a recent post on his social media platform, Truth Social, where Trump expressed his frustration over what he perceives as China's failure to adhere to the terms of the deal reached earlier this month. The trade dispute between the two economic giants has been characterized by a tit-for-tat exchange of tariffs, with the U.S. imposing steep import duties on Chinese goods that reached as high as 145%. In a bid to ease tensions, both nations had agreed to reduce these tariffs, with the U.S. cutting its import tariffs down to 30%. However, Trump's latest remarks suggest that the fragile truce may be in jeopardy. I made a fast deal with China in order to save them from what I thought was going to be a very bad situation, Trump stated, adding that the deal had initially led to a stabilization in trade relations. However, he quickly pivoted to criticism, stating, "The bad news is that China has totally violated ITS agreement with U.S." This public rebuke comes as U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer echoed Trump's sentiments, criticizing China for its sluggish progress in addressing key trade issues, particularly in the critical minerals sector. Greer noted that the U.S. trade deficit with China remains substantial, and there has been no significant change in China's trade practices. In response to Trump's accusations, Chinese officials have urged the U.S. to lift what they describe as discriminatory restrictions and to honor the agreements made during high-level talks in Geneva. The Chinese embassy in Washington emphasized that both parties have been in continuous communication regarding their respective trade concerns. As trade tensions simmer, the economic impact is already being felt on both sides of the Pacific. On Wall Street, the S&P 500 index fell by 0.2%, while the Nasdaq dipped by 0.4%. The Dow Jones remained relatively flat amid concerns over Trump's trade policies and their potential effects on corporate profits. Notably, clothing retailer Gap saw its stock plummet by nearly 20% after warning that tariffs could add up to $300 million to its costs this fiscal year, despite exceeding Wall Street sales and profit expectations. The uncertainty surrounding trade relations has left investors on edge, with market analysts suggesting that the situation has become increasingly convoluted. Art Hogan, chief market strategist at B. Riley Wealth, remarked, "We went from a place where it felt as though investors had a pretty good handle on the direction of trade and tariffs, and now that picture has become very confusing." In the UK, shares ended higher, but gains were limited as Trump's comments weighed on market sentiment. The FTSE 100 index gained 0.6%, while the mid-cap FTSE 250 rose by 0.1%. Investors in Britain remain cautiously optimistic following a limited bilateral trade agreement announced earlier this month between the US and the UK, which has contributed to a positive outlook despite the ongoing trade war. Meanwhile, the Chinese government is calling for a change in US policy regarding arms sales to Taiwan, further complicating the already intricate relationship between the two nations. Lu Pingyu, a spokesperson for the Chinese embassy, reiterated the need for both sides to work together to uphold the consensus reached during previous negotiations. As tensions escalate, the prospect of a phone call between Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping is reportedly being discussed, potentially providing a platform for dialogue amid the tumultuous trade environment. The situation remains fluid, with markets reacting to every new development in the ongoing trade saga. As we continue to monitor the situation, it is clear that the implications of Trump's statements and the subsequent responses from China will have far-reaching consequences for global trade and economic stability. That's all for this story. We upload videos every day covering many different subjects, so hit that subscribe button to stay informed. Thanks for watching.